So what you see on your screen now is two articles from two separate interviews during the September period of 2019. This was the period, obviously, that we were waiting for Wilder to fight Ortiz and for AJ to fight Ruiz. And you see the first one from the Sun newspaper. It's following the the Boxing Voice interview, and it essentially title reads, Wilder confirms he wants to fight Ruiz Jr. before Fury. The other one is a World Boxing News article which follows 78 IQ's interview. It says Deontay Wilder wants Andy Ruiz and Tyson Fury to step aside until undisputed. The actual article goes on to say, both fighters, Ruiz and Wilder, are signed to Al Heyman's PBC, making an in-house £200 plus battle for all the marbles a distinct possibility. Wilder says in quotation marks, I would want him to step aside, which I think he would do anyway, Wilder told 78 IQ, speaking about Fury. I think Fury would, but I would want him to do it as well, to give a unification chance. One champion, one face, one name. That has never left my mind. In my opinion, I don't feel Fury wants to fight me again anyway. If this opportunity, Ruiz beating Joshua, comes about, I think Fury will pass up his opportunity to fight me anyway. He would want me to fight for unification and then come back and fight him. He ain't really no king. He don't have no title. I revived his career for him. You're welcome. Now, if that happens, a Ruiz 5 title fight, these people can't even read out, but basically, you've got the gist there. Essentially, Wilder wanted Fury to step aside for Andy Ruiz, and that's why they were waiting so long anyway. They waited for ages. Do you remember, the Fury fight initially was announced in May, and they didn't say peep since. They were waiting for the AJ versus Ruiz card to be finished up. They weren't looking to book nothing in for the Fury fight. And Wilder confirms it here. My point is, we're hearing all this talk of, AJ's offered 50-50 and all this kind of goofy stuff. Wilder don't want it. And AJ actually brought it up the other day. And I'll talk about that in a separate video. But essentially, AJ said that when Wilder thought Ruiz was going to win, your boy Wilder, he was talking, oh man, I'm a one face, one name, one champion. He couldn't stop talking about unification, could he? He was all over it. But now, all of a sudden, when AJ's back in charge again, Wilder, for example, in the run-up, from June 1st to current date, from June 1st to December 7th, Wilder was constantly talking about, and I know how he was talking about, because I remember hearing at LDBC, they were all saying, oh yeah, and Wilder versus Andy Ruiz is going to be a 3 million pay-per-view sale, and Wilder versus Ruiz is Mexican versus USA, and they were proper gassing it up, talking about pay-per-view numbers. In fact, I remember, who was it? I'm not sure. I can't remember. I think Barbaro even said something about it. But either way, what we know is Wilder was constantly talking about unification, constantly talking about Ruiz winning. When Ruiz beats AJ, we're going to do the unification fight before Fury. And what's important about this is he's saying it. He wanted the Ruiz fight before Fury. So the issue is now, when AJ beat Ruiz on December 7th, why did Wilder have a stipulation? Why couldn't he just say, I want to unify before Fury? That's what he should have been saying. Why wasn't he saying that? Why all of a sudden, so AJ wins now, and Wilder's completely forgot about unification, and he's going ahead with the Fury fight. The very Fury fight, which he said he was going to put on the back burners if Ruiz won. Why didn't Wilder put it on the back burners? Now, people can say, oh, well, he knew that AJ wasn't going to negotiate. How do you know that? Don't get me wrong now. Maybe if Wilder, for example, if after December 7th, Wilder sent an offer to AJ's team and they ignored it, then I'd be saying, you know what, that makes sense then. But if he was so keen about unification, why has his team sent no offers out? Yeah, if you really want it, you could have inquired. You know what, we don't think AJ's team want it. You know what we'll do? We'll send an email over on December 8th and see what they're saying. If they ignore it, we can always crack on with a Fury fight anyway. My thing is, why did they not even inquire? For example, we know now AJ's team have no fight booked. What are they doing? They're inquiring. They're wondering, they're looking around, looking at their options. Yeah, we're going to look at sending Wilder an offer. Yeah, we've got Pulev, Usyk, but ideally we want to unify. See what I mean? That's what you do. Before you book a fight in, you check your options out and you go and you work out your number 1, 2 and 3 option. Wilder, on the other hand, before December 7th, he was saying, yep, Ruiz is number 1 and Fury is number 2. Now, December 7th happens and Wilder just cracks on forward with the Fury fight. My point is, where I'm going with all this is to say that Wilder don't want it. And he don't want it. And the crazy thing is, people talk about, oh yeah, well, and this is why I can't wait anyway. I can't wait for AJ and Eddie Hearn to offer 50-50 because I know for a fact he doesn't want it at any price, because if he did, if you want, this has been the thing all along. Do you remember back in April time when AJ sent the DAZN offer out, and even around then the whole 50-50 thing was milling about, and at the time people asked him, what do you want 50-50? Or even when DAZN sent the offer out, he sent their offer out, and Wilder wouldn't even sit down and negotiate. He didn't send no terms back. Do you remember? DAZN sent their offer out, and Shelley Winkle and Wilder didn't even send a counter offer. They didn't stipulate any terms. They didn't make any demands, and that's what made it so ludicrous. And that's what tells you they don't want to fight, because it's one thing to want 50-50. It's one thing even to want 60%. But you've got to make the demand known. When DAZN sent the offer out, no demands were made. Wilder's team individually have made no demands. This is proof they don't want to fight. And I can't wait until, well, I'm not sure if it will happen, but if AJ's team do offer 50-50, it's going to be hilarious to see what happens. Because, and in a way, whilst I don't agree with 50-50 at all, if it does end up happening, if the offer does end up being sent at 50-50, it's going to be hilarious to see what they come up with next. Because before, they were moaning about that. In fact, they weren't even moaning about the split though, because they didn't even make that as a demand. When DAZN sent the offer out, they didn't categorically come back and say, we want 50-50. They sat there and said, we want to know what AJ's getting, and that was their out. And it was a week out, and the thing that frustrates me is they essentially turned down $100 million offer on the basis that, they wouldn't tell us what AJ wants, or what AJ was getting. And not one person out of the media sat down with Wilder and said, wait there, Wilder, you said you wouldn't do a deal with AJ's team because they wouldn't tell you what the offer was. Why didn't you make that one of your terms? Do you remember, they wouldn't even come back to the negotiation table. They were done at that point. And even then, I'm not even sure that was the case, to be honest. They alleged that they wouldn't tell us how much AJ was getting. I'm not even sure that is the case. We don't even know. The fact of the matter is, if you really want the fight, never mind DAZN. Why haven't Showtime or Fox sent an offer out yet? They have no problem sending offers out for Ortiz and Brazil and whoever else, whatever other bummy fights they've got going on. Why is there nothing? Why is it always coming from AJ's side? And they're always complaining. Oh man, there's a whole bunch of whiny dudes. Wilder does not want it, and I can't wait. When this 50-50 offer does get sent, I want the media to. Part of me wants to do it myself, because if I don't do it, no one else will. Part of me wants to rock down there next time Wilder's in London and just stick it on him and ask the question that need to be done. It's crazy. You see people like Coogan questioning AJ about, AJ, why can't it be 50-50? Never mind that. You need to ask Wilder why he ain't sent no damn offers out. You need to ask Wilder why he don't want to communicate. Why he don't ever talk about the fight happening with AJ. He says things like, we know Anthony doesn't want to fight. He's hard to negotiate with. You never negotiated with them. You've never sat down and actually intended on making this fight. If Wilder's team had come to the DAZN meeting with the intention of negotiating, they would have sat down then and said, listen, you've just offered us $100 million. Our terms are, we're happy to accept A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You didn't write that term sheet out. Or you didn't write out your demands. You just left. And then you left on the basis that you left with a few kind of moaning points that you fed to the media. Oh, this is why it's not happening. As an excuse. That's not how you negotiate. You don't negotiate in the media. It's no good complaining about what did or didn't happen after the event. You should have been complaining in the event. But that's how you know that they don't want it. They've never actually tried to sit down and make the fight. Let's not forget when initially isn't that fake $50 million offer. Oh, we can't meet, we can't do this, we can't do that, it must be done within 2 hours, and weird. We can't tell you any information, we can't tell you who's being a broadcaster, all you need to do is say you accept and sign. Weird, man. And this for me, I wanted to bring this up because it's important. Before the fight, we couldn't really gauge it, but now we can. Now we know that there's something not right here. He was happy to push Fury aside for Ruiz, but not happy to push him aside for AJ. What does that say about him? He don't want it. He's shook.